Hey guys, so today we are going to do another build and we are going to create an image generation page using AI. So what we're going to do is set up the front end, do some of the back end workflows, set up the API call, and then from there you'll be able to create an image using DALL-E 3 with the OpenAI API. So cool, let's get into it. Okay, so as usual, we're going to go over to bubble.io and we're going to start from there. We're going to go back into our build from the series, which is our image marketplace. And now we're going to create a page that is able to take a text input and then create an image using AI. Okay, so we're going to start by going over to the left. We're going to add a new page. We're going to say AI image gen. Not going to clone that from anything, we're going to start from scratch. So you're going to get to your normal white page and then we are just going to add a couple elements to get started. First, we're just going to add a group into the top. Because it's laying like this, we go here and we change it to a column. This will make full width of the page. Now this will be where we put the input and the text and the next button. So we're going to go over there, we're going to type input, add an input into the top, and then we're going to add a button for submit. Okay, so we're going to change that group's layout to a row, so they're one next to each other. We're going to put these down in the middle just for a little bit of styling. Okay, perfect. Now we have the first element of our page, which is where we're going to input our prompt and then send the prompt. So let's recreate this one, call it create. All right, so now we're gonna need two other things within this page. We're gonna add a loader and then also a place to output the generated image. The reason we're gonna put a loader in this one is image generation takes a little bit longer than text generation. So it's always better for a user to have a bit of certainty with the loader and not think that the whole page is just broken. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to add an image. You can just put that in the middle of the page here. So this is going to be our image loader. Cool. Now we're going to add another group, and this is where the output image from the AI is going to go. So we'll add that below. We're going to not fit the width of the content so it goes full, and then we're going to make the height 400. Cool. I'm just going to add a little bit of an off color to this so we can see the different groups and a little bit easier to navigate. Okay, so now this group B we're going to put as image output. And now within this, we're going to add another image into the output image, and that's where our generation will end up landing. So we'll center this, put that in the middle. Okay, cool. So now we've done the front end, or the basic kind of elements that we'll need. Now let's get into setting up the workflows and then setting up the API call. Okay, so let's start from step one. The user will go over here, they're going to put in their prompt, and then they're going to say create. So if we try and create a workflow now, we're not really going to have anything to be able to call that image for. So now we need to go and set up the API call that will create an image using the OpenAI API. So we're going to go over to platform.openai. And then we're going to go over to the API reference. And then here in the API reference, we're going to go to our endpoints and we're going to go to images. Cool. So now here's where we have the basic instructions for setting up the API call. So now let's hop back over into Bubble. We're going to go over here to the left to plugins, to our API connector. So now we're going to add another API just so we can segment our different kind of calls. So this one is going to be DALL-E 3 image gen, and then we're going to add the specific API call, which will be the image creator. Okay, so now within this, we're going to do use as action, data type is JSON, and over here we are going to do a post. Okay, so now those are the basic parameters. Now let's start filling in these specific inputs. Okay, so over here where it says post, we are going to post to this URL over here. That is the image generation endpoint. Okay, so cool. v1 images / generations. Cool. So now we set up the basic. Now we're gonna go over here. We're gonna add a header. Our first header is content type, and then its value is application.json. Cool. That we can leave private. We're gonna add another header, and this is for our authorization. So if you remember from last time, over here we need to add in the word bearer and then our API key. So we're going to go fetch that API key in a little bit. Let's just finish setting up the rest of this call. Cool. So now the body type will be JSON again, and then here we need to add in our code. And it's literally as easy as copying this and pasting it over here. So now that is in essence the basics that we need. All we're going to do is, instead of having a set prompt, we're going to add over here our user input. Cool. Now this must not be private, and in order to actually initialize the call, you need to add a little value into this, but it will be replaced when we have it live in the front end. So we're going to just do very simple. It's going to say nature. Cool. So we need to go get our API key now. And over here, we're going to go back to the OpenAI platform, dashboard, API keys. We're going to go create a new secret key. This will be image gen and create. And over here we have our API key. So we're going to copy that, go over here, and then paste. So it'll be authorization, bearer, and then your API key. Cool. So now let's go and initialize this call. These ones do take a little bit longer sometimes because the image generation requires a little bit more compute. Cool. So our API call has been successful, and now you can see it has updated our prompt to make it a little bit more contentful, so it's a little bit easier for the AI to actually create an image. And then the output is not actually an image itself, it's just the URL to an image. So now we're going to take this data and put it through in our front end. So we're going to save. Now that call is ready. So now we can go and use that in our front end. Cool. So now we're back here with our page, and this is the input A, which is going to be our user prompt, and then this create will be the button to generate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here. Sorry, let me go back a little bit. We click on this create button, edit workflow, and we're going to go down to plugins, DALL-E 3, image gen, image creator. Okay, so now over here for the body, for the user input, we're going to go insert dynamic data, and we're going to find that input that we placed on the page. So we'll say input A's value. Cool. So now what that's going to do is it's going to send a request to the OpenAI servers, and it'll send something back, but we aren't necessarily listening for what's coming back. So now we need to set up what is received, and then once we receive it, create a new data element and then display that in the front end. So over here, we're going to go create a new thing. The type, we're just going to create a new type called image generations. Cool. So now that's going to save as an image generation. Now this data type doesn't have any kind of sub elements, so we're going to create them now. The first one is going to be called the image URL, and that's going to be text type. Create that, and this image URL is going to take the data that is received from OpenAI. So we're going to go result of step 1, it's data, first item, it's first item's URL. Okay, so now that URL is going to be saved into our database. And we can also create another thing like an image name or the prompt, and this can all be saved within a specific data type to be displayed on the front end. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple and just create the image and keep it very, very simplistic. Cool. So we now have our URL of the image. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set states of different elements within the page. So we're going to set a state, and this is going to be setting the state of this bottom page. So let's quickly recap what will happen. We're going to type in our prompt of what we want our image to be on. We're then going to click create. It's going to send this request. The server on OpenAI side will get the request, and then it's going to send back some data. So now we want to display that data in this bottom group. So in this group image output, click on this I button, and we're going to say create a custom state. So this we're going to put as image display, oh my goodness, display output. And this is just going to be a text type as well. So now we have that state. Now we need to set something into that state. So we're going to set state as an element, and this is going to be output. And now we've just created that state, image display output. So the value of this is now going to be that file's URL that was sent to us by the AI. So that's going to be result of step 2, the image URL. Cool. So now we're going to go to our output image, and now we're going to go to the image itself. So currently the state of that little section has the data, but now the image needs to pull from that state. So we're going to go to this group, to the image, and then in dynamic data we're going to say insert, and then this was called group output, group image outputs, image display outputs, and there we go. So now that will take the URL from the state of its holding group and display that element. So now we have these two things that are connected. But I also want to add a loader to the page so that users don't think that the page is broken, and it also just makes waiting times a little bit better. So for that, we're going to go over to a site called Lottie Files. I'm just using a free account on this one, so you can just download pretty low pixelated images. So all I'm going to type in to the top here is, when it works, all I'll type in here is, okay, doesn't want me to search. There you go. So we're just going to type in load. And I'm just going to take, or let's set it to free. Loaded, no. And let's take this one over here. So you're going to click on that, we'll say download, we'll save it to one of the workspaces. we literally just going to download a GIF for now. So we'll keep the transparent background, make it as big as we can, which is only 150 by 150, but that's okay for now. Wait for this to export, and now that is going to be the file we're going to use as our loader for the site, or for the page rather. Okay, so now we're going to go and upload that image to our image loader. And it's a little bit pixelated, but for now it's more just about the functionality of it. Okay, so right now all of this, if we load it, let's actually load it and see. All of this is going to display all at once, and we don't really want that. So now we need to set up some conditions and some further workflows that make it flow properly. Okay, so let's go do that. So now this we don't want to be visible when the page loads. So we're going to go to layout, we're going to say collapse when hidden, but we're going to remove this element as visible in page load. So now let's quickly go preview that again. So now the element is still there, but it's not being displayed, and because it's collapsed, it's taken away that space. Okay, so this is going to be the start of this whole workflow. So we're going to edit this element, and at the start of this whole thing, we're going to say show an element, and that is the loader. And then at the end of this, we're also going to say hide an element, which is the loader. Cool. So you can also use conditionals as well as other states to do this, but for this kind of build and use case, this will be the easiest. Okay, so let's go through what the process will be. We're going to type in our prompt, we're going to click create. It's then going to show the loader element, send the API request. It's going to calculate all of that in the background and then send it back to our page. Once our page has the data, then the loader will disappear and the image should show at the bottom of the screen. So let's go ahead and try it out. Okay, let's create a sunny day over a mountain. And let's see if this works. Cool. So it's showing our loader. It's now calculating and creating the image. Okay, so there's still a bit of lag and the image actually hasn't come through. Ah, there you go. So my loader setup could have been a little bit better there in terms of the value wasn't ready available in the front, but the loader had gone away. This is where you can adjust it with conditionals, if a value is empty, display and whatnot. But this is just a very basic overview of setting up an API call to DALL-E 3, setting up the front end, quick little demo for Lottie files, and then being able to create your own images in bubble.io. Cool. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you want to look at developing your own app or you need some assistance, reach out to me on LinkedIn or below in the comments, or just send me an email and would be happy to consult or give you some help. Cool.